All right, it's come to this. I've watched it many times. All right, many a time, and I got to make a video about Gangs of New York from 2002. All right, this it's directed by Martin Scorsese, and it's one of the coolest movies just alone off the setting. All right, it's set in 1960s New York in the slums, man. 5 Points is what the neighborhood's called. Murderer's Alley, Paradise Square. You know, like they have a slew of nicknames for everything in this goddamn movie. But basically, the movie starts out with Daniel Day-Lewis's character, Bill the Butcher, and Liam Neeson's character, the priest, getting together to have this huge brawl. All right, and it's a very powerful scene, and there's lots of good back and forth between the butcher and the priest before the brawl actually starts. It's really captivating stuff. The whole situation of the priest coming up through the basement of the church and leading his army of dead rabbits, which is the name of the priest's gang, and they're all Irish, and basically Bill the Butcher's running this all Native American gang, not like Native as in like, you know, like First Nations, but like native to born in the country, which is a fucking joke in itself. But basically, they have this huge war, and Bill the Butcher conquers the priest and kills him, basically, right? It kills his ass. And the priest's son, who sees all this go down, is sent away for 16 years to a place called Hellgate, which is essentially a fucking asylum, like an orphan, not an asylum, but, you know, like an institution for bad kids, if you want to call it that, for lack of a better term. And while he's there, it hints that he's friendly with the Chinese, and like all throughout this film you can see that right off the bat this film has been shredded to shit. Like there's supposed to be like a close to 4 hour version of this movie. We get a 2.5 hour version, so a lot of stuff is cut out. Wow, which pisses me off. I wish we could get a longer edit of this film because it needs it. It suffers from that, and it's one of its couple of downfalls is how much stuff has been redacted from it, if you want to call it that. So now that Leonardo DiCaprio's character is back home, or back in the 5 Points, he befriends this guy who's in a gang that's sort of under the Butcher's control, and makes his way under the Butcher's wing through various ways, i.e., the Butcher sees him doing some semi-heroic stuff, and making a name for himself, not being a bitch, not being a pansy, that kind of stuff, and beats the shit out of one of Bill the Butcher's lackeys, who used to be a lackey of the priest. And I think Leonardo DiCaprio sees that. He sees a few of his dad's friends basically playing the opposite side of the card table they should be playing, if you want to call it that. And I really like that. It adds to like his hatred towards some of these people, because you can tell like his life was totally ruined. It was set in shambles. His father was the leader of the biggest Irish gang, or one of the more notorious Irish gangs in the 5 Points at the time. There was quite a few. I'm so sick and fucked up in my mind, I can tell you all the gangs right now. Alright, it's the Chichesters, the O'Connell gang, the Plug Uglies, the Shirt Tails, the 40 Thieves, the Dead Rabbits, the Federation of American Natives, the Bowery Boys. Like, I've seen this movie too many goddamn times, but now that Leo's under the Butcher's wing, he basically saves his life. This one guy comes to shoot him, saves his life. And this is a fun fact. So, if you're a fan of Cannibal Ferox, if you're a fan of, Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell, you know this character on the screen right now. He's in Gangs of New York somewhere. His name is in the credits. It's on his Wikipedia. It's on his IMDb. I can't find the guy's face in this movie. I think that right there shows you there was a longer cut, because why the fuck... Like, I did not see this guy. I've met this guy in real life, for fuck's sakes. I did not see him in this movie. And that trips me the fuck out, because I know there's a longer version. But after Leonardo DiCaprio saves Bill the Butcher's life, it's only but a few days that he tries to end it. Because every year on the date of that great battle between the natives and the Dead Rabbits, they have this huge celebration at this Chinese restaurant, basically. And they put on this whole production. It actually looks like a hell of a fucking time. I wouldn't mind going to something like that. But it's at the point where Bill the Butcher's about to do his ceremonial drink of fire, which to me is bullshit, because if you've ever taken a flaming shot, a shot of alcohol that's been lit on fire, if you light it and you wait any longer than like 10-15 seconds, it's boiling. So he has this cup of fire for so long, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, man, that is just gonna destroy you. It's gonna kill your ass. But basically, right before he's able to take the shot, Leonardo DiCaprio, who's been practicing throwing his knife, throws a knife. Bill the Butcher deflects it because he's been tipped off by one of Leonardo's lackeys, and who later ends up getting killed by both Bill the Butcher and Leonardo DiCaprio in this sort of sad way. But Bill the Butcher exposes Leo for being what he is. He's the son of the priest. He's a coward and all this and that. He, like a sneak thief, he tries to kill me. One day he's saving me, next day he's trying to kill, like all this kind of stuff. And now you kind of got your dead rabbits coming back. There's a really powerful scene, nice followed track shot where the camera follows Leonardo DiCaprio walking through the 5 points, and he hangs a dead rabbit, which is, the term alone has been outlawed within the 5 points. So with that being said, for him to hang this dead rabbit right there in the open, everyone to see it, that's like a big thing, right? So you have, of all people, John C. Reilly playing another one of the priest's former friends. He's now like the law, or not the law, he's like the cop. He's like, the Irish cop. Like when you think of old cop movies as an Irish guy, like that kind of shit, right? And he's basically tasked with taking out Leonardo DiCaprio, but Leonardo DiCaprio proves his match in the church, kills his ass, the dead rabbits hang him, and after that, the Bill the Butcher's basically kills. Okay, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. During all this shit, fuck, I can't believe I left out all the Tammany Hall politics stuff. So during all of this madness that's happening, the Civil War is making its way up to New York, right? And you have this guy whose name's Boss Tweed, and he's running this place called Tammany Hall. Like he owns this district, like where 5 points is and all that stuff. He's a politician, and Bill the Butcher has him in his pocket. He's got the cops in his pocket, all that kind of stuff, and he's doing lots of unfavorable stuff, and that's a lot of people's problem with the film that have read the book and done a lot of history on a lot of research on New York history. They say there's not enough of the Tammany Hall politics or like the draft riot stuffs, which you get later in the film. So basically, with this politician guy sort of crossing, like being in Bill's pocket for a while, he kind of wants to switch over to go to the dead rabbits, and basically Leonardo DiCaprio says to him, listen pal, if you want our support, you have to back an Irish official for someone, and then they end up picking sheriff, and they pick this Irish guy who used to run with the dead rabbits, not officially, but he would, he had his own beliefs, so he didn't want to actually be in the gang, but he would throw down if paid, you know what I mean, with whoever. So they pick him. He's a really good actor. I forget his name, but he's in The Heart of the Sea, and he plays like the guy that tells Herman Melville the story of Moby Dick, basically. But all of the dead rabbits, they're like getting basically when the election happens. Sorry, I'm stuttering like a motherfucker. I love this movie. When the election is happening, the dead rabbits are grabbing everybody that has a beard. Go vote. They come out. Go get a shave, come back, vote again, vote 3 fucking times. Like they're trying to get this guy elected. And basically when Bill the Butcher sees that he's got no luck in this election thing, he goes and he kills this guy in front of everybody. And then during the funeral, that's when one of my favorite shots in the whole film happens. They're doing the walk with the whole funeral march is happening, all that kind of stuff. They walk past Bill the Butcher. Leonardo DiCaprio stops the procession, walks over to Bill and says, challenge. And Bill says, challenge accepted. And then that leads into another amazing scene where they're agreeing the rules, the terms of the fight. And I love that fucking scene. It's so short. It's so powerful though, because all the gangs that are going to be in the brawl are in this room, and they go over the terms, man. Weapons. Leonardo says, I'll leave it to you, Bill. Bill says, bricks, chains, bats, knives. He says, what about guns? And Leo says, no guns. And Bill the Butcher says, good boy. Because Bill the Butcher and Leonardo DiCaprio, Amsterdam, his name is in this film, they have this sort of weird father-son relationship, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I think it's so cool. But basically, now that the terms are met, they're going to have a fight. They're going to have a fucking throwdown. But something happens before they can actually have the rumble. And that is basically the draft riots. And the draft riots were basically this. Back in the days of the Civil War, when they had the very first draft of all time, you could pay $300 and not have to be, and you wouldn't have to fight. They would take that $300, process the money somehow, and someone would fill your place, right? And people were pissed about that. Nobody had $300 in the 1860s. People were fucking living in doorways and shit like that. You know what I mean? And it's very fucking crazy and insane. But basically, the riots went down like this. All the poor people would go around and find what you might call a $300 man and kill him. They would kill black people. They were killing everybody, man. A lot of people died. Cops were dying. Soldiers were dying. Citizens were dying. And, you know, as this riot is just taking over the city, we got our two gangs coming together to do this rumble. And just before shit's about to hit the fan and they're going to start swinging at each other, a cannonball comes, boom, and just splits up the whole fucking thing. The only people that are there actually fighting are Bill the Butcher and Leonardo DiCaprio. And then another bomb falls and part of the shrapnel goes into Bill the Butcher, and he knows he's toast. And he says to Amsterdam, he says, you know, thank God I get to die a true American. And Amsterdam just stabs him with, I believe, the same knife that he killed his father with, which I think is very powerful and very an emotional scene. Cameron Diaz, who plays a big part in this film, it's not one of my, it's one of the parts I don't like about the film. That's why I didn't talk about it much. But she comes and finds Leonardo DiCaprio, and basically they split, and they go and they find all the streets are just littered with dead bodies, and they all have like a little small coaster or plank of wood about the size of like maybe a VHS tape with a candle on it, so their friends could see them, you know, in the dark if they had any friends, basically, which I think is sad. But here's another point I'm going to bring up, and my girlfriend, she will fucking vouch for me that I talk about this every time we watch this movie. There's a character in this movie played by, I think his name's Lawrence Gillard, black actor, great actor, I love him, and he plays a character by the name of Jimmy Spoils, who has all these sort of like back and forth poking fun at Amsterdam, Leonardo, and it's never sort of fulfilled. Like when they first meet, they get into a fight. Few scenes later, Leo's asking him how his nose is, how's the beak, and Jimmy's like, it's all right, and you can tell that there's this friendship there. And even the scene when they're on the boat, like one of the first missions that Bill sends them on, you know, Leo saves Jimmy's life, you know, theoretically, and then when Jimmy's going down the ladder down to the boat, he says, wait for Amsterdam. Like there's this friendship there that I just wish could have been unfolded a little bit more, because what little interaction we had with Jimmy Spoils in Amsterdam, I liked better than the interactions with Amsterdam and the John character. I just thought he was kind of a whiny fucking pansy. He did not fit. He was too whiny, too pansy-ish. No disrespect to the actor. I just think he could have, I think maybe what he could have done is grew out, it's not his choice, but if he had a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, and maybe, like, he had the scar and all that, he just wasn't rugged enough. I didn't buy him for like a bandit kind of guy. So, and then basically after this brawl happens, we're met with our final scene after the dead bodies in the streets. Amsterdam and Cameron Diaz character, they go to this graveyard, and Leo buries Bill the Butcher, and he buries this knife, this razor blade that was very important to him, in between the graves of the priest and Bill the Butcher. And then Leo gives this little bit of a speech about how, you know, people that lived and died in those times, like, they'll be forgotten and all that kind of stuff. The camera stays completely still, but the background changes. So it goes from 1960s New York to probably about 1920s New York, then to about 1970s New York, 1990s New York, ending with, you know, you can see the two trade towers and all that stuff. Very sad stuff to think about, but very powerful ending. Loved it. So Martin Scorsese, amazing. Even, this is fucked to say, like, I'm totally not that kind of guy, but the band U2 does the song at the end, and their version I don't think is as good as the orchestral version that's played in the film, so I highly recommend checking out the film version instead. But they do a song called The Hands That Built America. It's such a good industrial sounding song, especially that orchestral version, man. So yeah, I love this movie. I think I talked about it for like 15 minutes. I think, you know, and any more would just be me going, you know. So I appreciate everybody for watching, checking out the Facebook page, yeah, subscribing, leaving comments, all that. I love it, man. Thank you to everybody that's watching the videos, for real. Stay safe out there, and hug your loved ones tight as you can. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all we got. They're all we fucking got.